As soon as he got the news that his grandma wasn't in any kind of danger, Jacob felt like he could breathe again. "Come on, I'll drive you to the hospital," Drakon offered and picked up his keys. "Okay." Jacob stood up from the couch immediately. Sophie also followed immediately after him. She wouldn't leave him alone at a time like this. Drakon drove smoothly, and they reached the hospital in record time. He called Helen once again from the car and found out that Jacob's grandma was in a stable condition and was under observation now. They climbed up the stairs and walked through the quiet corridors. Finding their way through the lobbies and checking the signboards, they finally reached the general ward. They looked for the room Helen had mentioned, and they entered as soon as they found it. There were 4 beds in the room, and 3 of the beds were taken by other elderly patients. Helen gave Jacob and the other 2 a weak smile when she saw them enter. She was sitting on an uncomfortable-looking chair next to the bed. Jacob's grandma was lying on the bed with a saline drip attached to her hand through an intravenous injection. Her eyes were closed, and her breathing seemed to be stable. The wrinkles on her face made her look older than she actually was, and to Jacob she looked a bit smaller.
"The doctor said they will have to keep her under observation for at least 48 hours,
Helen said in hushed tones as she rose from her chair to make room for Jacob. She didn't want to talk at her normal volume and disturb his grandma. "Thank you, Helen," said Jacob as Helen gave him a warm hug. His relief was immeasurable as he walked over to take a look at his grandma.
"Since this was an emergency, she was put into a general ward like this."
Helen continued to give Jacob the details.
"I will talk to them tomorrow and see if they can transfer her to a private room."
"It's okay," Jacob said as he turned around, not knowing how to express his gratitude. His eyes brimmed with tears, thinking of what would have happened if she hadn't been there.
"I need to pay for a bunch of speeding tickets tomorrow, but I have an appointment with a big client. He wants to visit my studio, so I won't have time to pay."
Helen whispered into Drakon's ear, making sure that Jacob was out of earshot. Jacob sat in the chair that Helen had vacated and looked carefully at his grandma. He managed to hear what Helen was whispering about and said, "Let me pay for the tickets, Helen." She was surprised at how sharp Jacob's hearing was. After a pause, she shook her head and smiled.
"It's all right. There are only 2 or 3 of them, and it's no big deal, really."
Drakon took a good long look at Jacob and asked, "Did you break through the 2nd level of the spirit concentration scroll, Jacob?" Jacob nodded. He was so worried about his grandma that he forgot to give Drakon the good news. "No wonder I sensed something different about you. All of your 5 senses have gotten sharper, too." Drakon had figured it out the way Jacob managed to hear Helen's whispers. Jacob didn't feel anything special, but since Drakon said they were enhanced, then that must have been the case. Sophie, who was standing beside Jacob, looked at him in surprise. She thought,
"It hasn't been long, and he has already broken through the 2nd level of the spirit concentration scroll? I ate elixirs at home as if they were candy and barely got to the 1st level of cultivation. He is really hard-working." "You should keep your grandma company. Now that she is all right, I should take Sophie home. She has school tomorrow. I have already paid for the hospitalization and treatment fees, and I have also paid some additional deposits just in case. She should get the best treatment. I'll come by tomorrow if you need anything,"
Helen said to Jacob as she kept a comforting hand on his shoulder. "I'll pay you back. Thank you, Helen," Jacob said sincerely.
"It's not a lot of money, Jake. Don't worry about it. Take care of her. That should be your only priority right now."
Helen smiled at him one last time and turned to leave with Drakon. They were about to exit the room when they realized that Sophie didn't follow them. As they turned to look at her, she was still rooted in her place.
"You guys go. I will be out in a second,"
Sophie told them with a pleading look. Drakon wanted to say something, but Helen silently held his hand to stop him, nodded at her daughter, and dragged her husband out of the room. Once they left, Sophie turned around to look at Jacob, who was already looking at her, patiently waiting for her to say something. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She had never been in such a serious situation. She then took a deep breath and held Jacob's hand.
"Don't worry. She is fine now, and we are all here for you,"
Sophie said in her most calm voice. Jacob couldn't help but smile. He gave her hand a little squeeze to show his gratitude, and she smiled back at him. After staying like that for a few more seconds, Sophie let go of his hand gently and walked out of the room. Jacob stayed in the ward, waiting for his grandma to wake up. She finally woke up at midnight when Jacob was about to fall asleep.
"Jacob?"
She called out softly as soon as her half-closed eyes fell on his blurry figure. Jacob woke up, startled at her voice. When he saw his grandma awake, he called out in excitement, "Grandma!" He immediately covered his mouth as he remembered that there were other people in the ward too who were sound asleep.
"Why am I here?"
his grandma asked as she looked around.
"You fainted at home, so we brought you to the hospital,"
Jacob answered lightly.
"Oh, I remember now. I was cleaning the house, but I don't remember what happened. I was cleaning the tiles, and I woke up here,"
she said as she tried to recall how she fainted. She raised her arm slowly and brought her hand to his cheek. He looked worn out. She then asked,
"Why are you here? Shouldn't you be in school?"
Jacob told her exactly what had happened. However, he didn't refer to Helen as his mother-in-law, but as his student's mom.
"They must be very kind people. Who helps others like this these days? I must thank them in person after I recover,"
Grandma sighed. She was too weak to keep up with their conversation, so he persuaded her to rest some more. He didn't want her to pass out again. She, too, had gotten excited to see her grandson and forgot all about her frailness. But she knew she needed to rest. Satisfied with Jacob's presence, she went off to sleep with a smile. In the morning, a nurse brought her breakfast. It was made as per the diet recommended by the doctor. Jacob took it from her and fed his grandma carefully, making sure she ate most of it.
"Jacob, today is Friday. You have classes today, right?"
Grandma asked as Jacob fed her another spoonful of the porridge.
"Yes, but I can take a day off.
You're still weak," Jacob said immediately. Jacob felt guilty when he thought about his grandma being home alone with Uncle James, who wasn't very good at taking care of her. However, since Grandma mentioned the university, he suddenly remembered Sam and his friends. Yesterday, he had left abruptly, completely forgetting to inform them about what had happened. He took out his phone to see several missed calls and worried texts from each of them. He immediately replied to them in their group chat, apologizing and telling them the whole story. They reassured him and told him that they would inform the teachers so that his attendance wouldn't be affected. Jacob got busy taking care of Grandma, who had to have the saline drip attached to her all day. He made sure she got fresh towels and peeled apples for her, doing whatever he could to make her feel comfortable. In the afternoon, Jacob got a text from Kathy, asking about his grandma's condition. Jacob knew that she must have asked Sam after noticing his absence, and this message was her way of showing her concern. Jacob smiled at her gesture and felt elated to be beloved. Grandma saw Jacob smiling as he looked at his phone. She let out a chuckle and asked,
"Is that your girlfriend who's texting you?"
"No," he laughed it off. He typed out a text to Kathy and wrote, "She's fine now. Thank you for asking." He pressed send and put away his phone.
"It's normal to have a girlfriend at your age."
Grandma didn't let go of the subject. Jacob knew she hardly got to spend time with her own son and daughter-in-law, and that probably made her eager to see Jacob getting married. If not marriage, a girlfriend by his side, or a potential wife too, would have made her happy. Also, given her age and health condition, it was understandable that she wanted to have a granddaughter-in-law as soon as possible. Therefore, he didn't argue with her. The strange thing was, Kathy would always pop up in his head whenever his grandma brought up this topic. It was as if his instinct had been telling him that an intelligent and understanding girl like her would be the type of granddaughter-in-law his grandma would like.
But if you do have a girlfriend, she would probably be visiting me now that I am sick, right?
Grandma didn't want to let this topic slip, so she kept asking. Just as she finished her sentence, Sophie entered the room, looking a little skittish. She was in her blue uniform and had her school bag hanging on one shoulder.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.